Blessings, welcome forward to Reasonings right here at HAILE Life. We're on the road. I'll find myself this moment on the steps of the Dub Club, right up in Jackshill, St. Andrew, you know. Jerome Sage Butler right here. Lawrence Anderson, the Mystic Bob, you see it. So we're here and we're talking about Trodding Rastafari right now. It's an interesting journey, you know. I've been trodding amongst Rastafari since the age of 21. In a few months I'll be 40 years old. So you can say that's basically 19 years along this path, certainly 18 and a half years. I've learned a lot, I've seen a lot. And we've been asked on the channel to talk about like the journey for a lot of folks who are trodding Rastafari now. I think I've been through a lot of definitions about Rastafari in terms of the political, social, and maybe somewhat economic outlook, and even just cultural and creative way of life. But now this one is for individuals who have been asking us, like, you know, they've been in other societies and they want to know how they come to this Rastafari way of life, because they've been looking at life in a certain spiritual way. And now there's a culmination to what Rastafari is saying, and maybe stuff they read in the Bible or stuff they read in, you know, places that they probably have been educated, like, you know, Hebrew Israelite spaces, and, you know, sometimes you have the Nation of Islam spaces. So you have lots of people coming, a lot of different perceptions, and then they draw to the culture of Jamaica and Rastafari, right, Bob? And they try to make a sense of their reality, a sense of what is Rastafari. So Trodding Rastafari is to help those individuals. Now, let me first begin by saying the Rastaman and the Rasta woman. The Rastaman and the Rasta woman was born out of the experience of Jamaicans who did not want to live a European way of life, and as such were trying in their hardest, their most deepest soul, to be as best themselves, as African, as ancient, as indigenous as possible, yet being present. So these individuals really took a way of life that didn't agree or seem agreeable to the structure. So it came away from the carnivorous or omnivorous meat-eating culture of the Europeans, and took more from the Hindu culture, even in terms of the references to marijuana being Kali and all these things, you know. So these are references from Hinduism, and, you know, even Gang, and, you know, it's from Ganguru Maharaja, which is Indian titles for the Maharaja kings. And, you know, it is interesting how the Africans at the time, who wanted an African definition or soul and independent definition of even how they look at Yeshua, right, created this Rastafarian way of life through struggles, pain, and suffrage from the government and the structure of the day. So let us be very clear, the Rastaman, the black Jamaican man and woman who really was chastised, bastardized, even physically harmed for looking at themselves as authentic without a European definition that said 3/5 human, and that they should grow and have their children grow along this path of life. Now that I've established that parameter, that it is related to Jamaicans and the Jamaican struggle for self-identity, a particular group of people calling themselves Howellites, Garveyites, the Beardsmen. The history is there. I'm not here to recant it and recount it every time. But what I'm saying is this is a foundation for what I'm going to say, what we're going to reason on as we go forward. Number one, this is our heritage that has become popularized by Bob Marley, Burning Spear, Mutabaruka, and so many other cultural icons over the time. The truth of the matter is, it's become popularized, internationalized, and here we are now, where people become attuned to your way of living because they can connect to the similar suffrages that people are facing in our culture, and the kind of way the system oppresses their individual expressions, because even in the modern so-called well-developed world, they are covering many other cultures. Look at Spain. Spain talk about the Basque separatists and all these things, but within Catalonia and within the Basque region, there are independent nations of people that are all being squished down. Look at England, the Scottish, right, and Northern Ireland. So in all these references and these wrestlings, right, Rastafari was always saying, we do not want to be defined by the state and the colonial apparatus, and that structure of the big man, those in charge oppressing the little man. See, that reality is in all the world. And so we recognize that people identify with Rastafari and has taken onto the path of Rastafari. Hence the question now comes, Brother Bob, how to live this Rastafari way of life, how to trod Rastafari. So Bob, I'm going to ask you a question. How did you start out on the path of looking at Rastafari? What draw you to that way of looking at life and even looking at yourself?
How I started out, as I said, the influence of Rastafari between Bob Marley was the first thing when I was an early child, when I was listening to Bob Marley music at Miguel in the hotel, about One Love and other songs. It gave me a lot of internal feeling where I can look inside myself and feel that life around me, where I go through my struggle, it helped me to change my perception of my emotion thinking, what I'm doing. So what I find myself, what I'm doing, is how I live with based on my parent system and the system based on the environment, the world, what I live in, what's not part of myself. So the music that Bob Marley would explain how to be yourself, it's how to be loved, how to talk good, live good, treat others good. When people argue with you, they speak the truth one time and you will move on because people are looking the truth inside of them on a moment. And at Rastafari, we do not create an argument, we just create a information where we speak it one time and we just hold it in a silent mode. And that is reach a point where people become your acceptance of your spirit if you hold your true self, you know.
Absolutely.
And if you want to speak the truth of everything, not everybody agrees based on they live in a systematic information, but they will find the truth based on what they live, what their errors, what they make, based on, like, example, the food what we eat. The example, they eating meat and we don't support pork, right? We support certain food that give you a different energy, function, a different healthy thinking, where you can feel difference in yourself where it is natural, you know? Something that is unnatural where it just, It's
like it confused your whole reality then.
Confuse reality and your body, your biological process.
Okay.
It's like it give a different what you call it?
All right. So why you go and expand that? Just to put into context all of what you're saying. So first of all, you said the journey for you was sparked by Bob Marley's
Bob
music.
Marley when I was younger.
And so a lot of people likewise have had the same experiences. Like we're in Jamaica, so there's lots of Rastafarian artists that would have been on the radio playing. Maybe the culture in some of our generations weren't popularized to us when we were growing up, but you still knew the music. So at least they would play Bob Marley. So then the spark really sent you into yourself then.
Right. Basically it came to your conscious basically. You want to have your own luck, you want to live good, you want to live happiness. You see yourself where you can find your own talent apart from the talent what the system gives you, you know?
Okay, so we're gonna say, all right, so then it really starts the process then of a self-examination.
Right.
So because some people don't say how you know yourself. So first, because of the spark in the music, as you said, towards love, clarity, understanding, to find your creativity, to essentially find who you are and your purpose, right? So then it starts you searching into yourself.
Right.
And then you continue in that search. And then you meet others, right? Because that's what you're thinking will lead you to meeting other people. Then it's like you change lifestyles. Now you start maybe deciding because of the kind of thinking and the kind of people you're around, then maybe you don't want to eat a certain kind of way anymore.
Right, you don't want to act a certain way.
All right, so then that means that the energy in the body then is changing, right? So it's not just that the mentality is changing, the behavior is changing, but the whole energy dynamics in the body is changing, right? Because then you're basically on a different frequency. All right, so we're trying to get from that now, like to explain it to a lot of people now who's like, okay, so I'm making this journey. I want to trod Rastafari, but maybe they say that they're Chinese, they're Caucasians, or they're Asiatic people, or they're a black man in a French society, or a black man in an Italian society, and they want to define themselves as Rastafari. So one of the main contexts I wanted to establish through asking Bob this question is to show you that it is similar for a lot of us. After we've been sparked by the cultural icons through the music who bring the message of Rastafari to us, where some of us who are more maybe intellectual, still we search through deeper music, stronger music, music with deeper messages before we even start go to the text or the information. And then we start study the text of Rastafari. So one of the things that, as Bob talked about way of thinking, well, it changes our way of behavior. Symbolism becomes a big thing. It's like you see people taking excerpts of the speech of His Imperial Majesty and they laminate it and, you know, do it in nice good form and they put it up in your house. You put up the portraits of the Emperor and the Empress to represent sacred masculine and sacred feminine and a sense of royal family. So then you see the process of repairing the psyche, because remember, as African people, especially in Jamaica, we've been so damaged. So the essence of repairing all the different traits of the true self, the indigenous man, to all of like the Taínos and all of us who were mixed in with all the other nations, the indigenous Indians that came here as well too. So all of that was like a seeking in our consciousness, right? And then so the symbolism now of Rastafari is like a definition and a change to the European structure. So even just the portraits now, we're coming forward to that again, but even just the portraits the Rastaman wear is a definition to say, listen, this is to show that I am not in the structure of what exists. That is how powerful just a portrait of His Majesty, portrait of Bob Marley, portrait of Peter Touch, or even a portrait of what the Rastaman call an eye trait of Miss Lou. It is very, 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 very interesting and very, 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 very intriguing. So Bob, yes, continue.
I have to get one point. Apart from if people who born an era never that know influence of music or computer or TV about Rasta, but I have a feeling that when you're born, you naturally become Rasta based on your own feeling when you grow up. But when you start get the influence by others, you start recognize something there before. Right, something there before.
Well, Bob Marley talk about Rastafari as being an inborn concept, you know, like him say, when, I guess he was once asked, when did you become a Rasta? And him say, well, I started out being a Rasta, you know, I guess for my youth. And then what he said was to kind of confirm his point on Rastafari. He said he moved from the country in 9 Mile to Trenchtown, right? And he realized that he was thinking a certain way in 9 Miles that made him isolate from the people around him. And then when he came to Trenchtown, he said he realized that the people were thinking like himself were Rasta. So I guess it's a way of looking at oneself.
Your way of looking at yourself, how you grow and how you speak and how you think, right?
So, I mean, people might still not understand what we're saying. We're saying it's a way of looking at your authentic self. So I know lots of people will say, well, it's a person who's being Rastafari adopting someone's culture, because that's an important topic we need to look at. The truth of the matter is, what the Rastafari endeavors to instill in or imbue in oneself or to esteem out of oneself is to be oneself. How do the Rastamans view that self? That self is viewed as a natural alignment, a natural entity, a natural organic being. That if it's best kept in an organic order, that is the godly order. That is actually the divine. So it's called natural. The eating way of life is called ital, without additives, meaning without manipulation, just a natural way of life. Now, when you look at the philosophy of naturality, in the black man, it's not just in terms of how we are taught that we are. It's also about how you really, truly look at your being, to know your actual being, to feel, to care for your being, to know it enough to treasure it, to respect it, to ensure that it stays along the path of nature. It stays harmonious in nature, not just subject to all of the information that inferred that we were less than. So Rastafari is always saying the authentic self, natural self. Natural self, creative self. This is where the sun, moon, stars, earth, energy, everything, the spirit is imbued as one life. That is why you put the seeds out and you till up the soil and you drop them in without the need to fertilize, because the fertilizer is the natural environment, how it is cured. So if you do not devastate the natural environment, in a Rastaman's context, then nature will yield great returns. So always about harmony with terra firma. That's Rastafari. And in so being, how could you not be yourself? So adopting someone's culture is more than just the idea of saying I'm following what they follow. Because if you truly understand Rastafari, being yourself is the end product. It's not just to have an image, but that the heart will express its true nature. That things that aren't for one love, for peace, for harmony, for truth will be removed. And then from those are removed in your thinking, it's like your way of life will change, the attitudes will change, the people you're around will change, and then your outlooks on life will change. So then when you're treading this way now, let's just say you come to a level of this awareness and you begin to espouse this information just naturally because you are reading it in the books, you got your eye traits, you got your room decked in red, green and gold, and you begin to listen to excerpts of selected speeches of His Majesty. You begin to read Marcus Garvey if you read it that serious, and you begin to see that, okay, there's a correlation between what has happened to us as African peoples or indigenous nations, and you're trying to find the whole value of self. Now you're going to realize that there are other people who do not have that philosophy. Now, when you begin to live that philosophy, people say you're a Rastafari or whatever term they want to use, derogatory or not. But when you're defined as Rastafari, it's more than just being defined as dreadlocks, herb smoking. You are defined as someone who is a vanguard of nature, a vanguard of the ancient and natural ways. Certainly respect the family. And yes, there's some Rastafari who is patriarchal, but there's also matriarchy within Rastafari where the feminine energy is highly respected and even more revered. So there's not just that it is one cut all system. Now, am I taking on to the influence of Europeans into Rastafari? I'm not saying that I would take on to such an influence, because I believe that I can truly understand Rastafari has been Jamaica's experience. So I'm not even playing the game like some other people playing international connoisseur of information. I'm saying that where people identify with Rastafari way of life, because they can identify within themselves, as Bob said, that when this information comes onto you, see a similitude, a correlation with your own life, and what Rastafari is really teaching you is to strive to be your natural self. Now, we already explained in previous programs that locking the ear is not indigenous to Rastafari, it's indigenous to all people, all nations. Right. So it comes from an indigenous representation of self, not just a postmodern representation of self. Let's be clear on that. You were saying, brother?
Yeah, I was trying to tell that even though when people call me Bob, I recognize that my mother's brother is a Rasta and named Alexander, and he part with third world people and people call him Bob. So I got that mythical experience that I have been connected with other people at the same similar energy when I grew up. I believe that every generation who born, one of male or female have to be Rasta in their family in each generation, because they serve a different purpose, you know. And I recognize that each child born with a natural Rastafari self, because Rastafari is spiritual eye. Rastafari eye, when you go back to the eye, you go back to your oneness self, you go back to your inner eye. I mean, you go back to your one self. It's true you know who you are, and you truly know what is your purpose to be in liberty, you know. And you know how you know you're going to be a Rastafari? When you start talking the truth, when you start be kind, then the energy, your heart rate start change, and the expression, your subconscious start open up. And when the more you talk the truth, the people start changing around you, because others do start talk their truth once you hold your own truth. You see me?
So it's like each one reach one, iron sharp iron, each one teach one. It's like also expansion of energy. It's that from the energy sparked in one, where one and more gathered to agree on my name, there I am also, the premise of Yeshua. And then remember that the influence of Yeshua in the life of Rastafari is paramount, and also in the life of actual Rastafari in Jamaica is also paramount. So there are many embedded layers. Rastafari is not just a postmodernist view of reality. So for those who are just totally modernists and looking at things a certain way and talking about Sankofa and all those things and retention, let me tell you, Rastafari is more than retention. It's authentic divine spirituality. An authentic divine spirituality that is natural in the way we are, in the way we have been, have shown that it's necessary. So it is an evolution, right? Now people can say, well, you know, this is this way and that should be that way, but look at how the planet has been, and look at how in less than basically 80 years, Rastafari has basically spread across the whole continent of Africa, the Americas, Europe, the Caribbean. Look at how this message, because it was already present in the hearts of people. People say it's a carbon issue with people say they copy the greatest archetype. If it is so, and Bob Marley being the greatest archetype, inspired by Rastafari, truly utmost devout Christian, follower of Christ that is, then one can see where all of it is rooted. Some people do not like when we say this, but then it's a good thing I'm not trying to please anyone, but just what I know to be the expressions coming through. Validations are based upon life. Sometimes we're proven lesser, sometimes we're proven more, and sometimes we're proven downright wrong. It takes the good person to acknowledge the truth of the matter is, a lot of the basis of the spirituality of Rastafari, in terms of Rastafari Makanin, HAILE SELASSIE, is based upon Jesus. Christ had, Yeshua had a great influence, if not the most paramount influence in the life of Rastafari. So the culture that has spawned from the life of Rastafari Makanin is truly one that is poised, grounded in Christ. And as such, the divine heritage of the Rastaman is to be Christ-like. Is to be Christ-like. Because Christ, the matted hair, the blackest of the black till blue black, the ancient messianic, way before definitions were lighter than the true definition of all those titles, the Arab, the ancient messianic, it's all black. The root of Jesse, it's all black. It's all black. 9 ether here, kind road here. That is the reality. Not Johnny come lately, not deceptor, not deceiver, but holy preceptor. And Rastafari has been a reclamation of anciency in modern times. So you will stick out. Let's get back on tangent. You will stick out when you begin to define yourself as contrary to the ideas that have held up the society. You'll see just how much you threaten them. You threaten them so much that they really do not want to speak to you at times, because your reasoning, your rhetoric, your argument, your interest is so averse to their interest that they begin to take notice and they want to reject you and push against you. And then you recognize that there's something going on in this, that it's the rejected of men that is the accepted of Christ. You begin to understand what is happening in the Christ consciousness in the life of the Rastafari man. Now you can understand why I am not strange, nor my friends are not strange, in that we have found Yeshua and we have found Rastafari. But Rastafari showed us the way to Yeshua, and when we found Yeshua, he did not say turn away from Rastafari. So we understand something.
And that is why everybody knows the fact that Rastafari is the healthy way. Because when people look at the example of the food, how food let their natural resources and create food and put fertilizer and chemical and point to the people's mind, when people go to the Rastafari and deal with the food, them that healthy, them think different, them can sleep properly, them aware. But what happened, a lot of people in the journey, those who drop off a Rastafari, they could have reconnect back and continue the journey because they know them truth. Just because them lost them faith because of fear. Because they now hold their be love, they hold their love. Once you hold their love, they just shoot the way because you know the truth. So that is why people who used to be a Rasta, and before them male and female come together and build up, and them people become Rasta, and them fight them people not to become Rasta, and them parents used to be Rasta, and then complain and become their conflict. Right, that is, I want to mention those things.
Yeah, what Bob is trying to say very clearly is that you have people who once in their earlier days were on the path of Rastafari because it led them to the awareness of themselves. So they recognize an organic, harmonious way of life. But then material realities and keeping in tune with the material system and the positions and the kind of respect gained from the material structure, because there's so much people placated in it, there's so much people rewarding you when you are in the material system, that when people now begin to, I guess, examine Rastafari more, exemplify it more, then you tend to be isolated and ostracized. For some people, it was too much of an ostracization that they really did not want to continue such hurting themselves, so they changed the lifestyle. They went and followed let's say the ballad culture, the European culture, the Eurocentric culture in Jamaica, or within wherever their societies, and they end up feeling very regretful. But Bob is saying, let's look at it. We don't have to look at such a person like they've totally lost their way. It's that for a moment they've lost the consciousness of themselves, but they can return to that consciousness because you've realized that, okay, I've spent time out in Babylon and it really hasn't benefited me, so I can return to my true nature. Return to yourself, to your first love, and that is the love that Yah has made in us, you know. And, you know, one of the most beautiful things I think about Rastafari, apart from the music, because we cannot talk about Rastafari without talking about the music. We know about the HAILE cuisine, right? The lack of sodium or any form of MSG products in the food, right? We talk about the way Rastafari think about life, trying to be respectful of nature, so they don't want to be dishonorable. So the food is clean, and then they have this music now that comes from it, right?
They tend to write message from Jah.
Yeah. So the
Rastafari is very spiritual in music, because the more time when Rastafari meditates in nature, then that's an internal message, and they have to put it to the people so that people can stand by the message. And the method that stemmed by Tom Billionaire method to show you who you are and where the future to go and what happened to the earth. And that Rastafari embraced the earth towards music. So
Rasta music come from heartbeat.
right.
So it's like soul music.
Yes,
Right.
it's, and Raman is saying the heartbeat, the soul music, but it's also the music of life itself.
Right.
Because if it's patterned off of your heartbeat,
And the inner voice comes with you.
and the inner voice, as Bob
that
said.
everybody know about intuition, that voice.
So-
Job voice.
so we can look at the inner voice, as Bob say, voice of the soul, as the Raman say, and the fact that it is, I say, it's a music of life. That if you put it all together, the heart, the soul, the intuition,
Right.
that message in the music is a message carried not just through the ancestral stream, it's carried through the streams of the present, the cosmic as it is alive. Messages are coming for the now age. Messages are coming for reparations to how we had acted in the past, how we were hurt in the past and need to be healed. It's an examination of how we are treating terra firma, the earth itself. It is a dichotomy, and our political systems are coming. So Rastafari music is so imbued with the essence and the energy of life itself. So that's another area in which a change of lifestyle, a change of belief, or a awakening or a actualization of your authentic way of life has brought expression through music. And then that's just one avenue. There's the art, there's the painters, the people who are basically sculptors, the carvers, and the people who make the beads, the chains, and all these things from a plethora of natural material. An entire world opens up to Rastafari. So the people think it's a severing only, but it's also a amending, it's an addition. So Rastafari opens up through the music, through the food, through this culture, a life.
The art to the music.
A life that a lot of folks yearn for, but say, where is it? What is here? It isn't run by the material construct. There is a monetary undertone for service and products, but the monetary undertone is that exchange and the balance of the material and the spiritual, because Rastafari did say material and spiritual. How else would Rastafari feed their children? So there's this notion that Rastafari is holy, people want to be poor and withdrawn from nature. To be honest, to be in nature is to seek to be healthy and seek to be wealthy. So to actually go towards nature is more honorable than to go away from nature. So those who view Rastafari in that way and think it's dishonorable, I think it's a hurtful thing, I think you need to re-examine it again, because the perception of the soul coming through as a self is just a little bit off tilted there. So you need to examine it again to look at that it's not that a person thinks less of themselves, is that a person thinks the right way of themselves, to recognize that there is harmony, and the need for it is what we call natural life, natural living. Ital life, ital living is Rastafarian to the core. Rastafari was far more vegan than any modern day vegan. Our lifestyle and the lifestyle of the elder Rastafari far was more healthier. You didn't need a gym. The Rastaman, even look at Bob Marley when he came out in the sweatsuit. That was because Rastaman understood that a healthy life involved good exercise and that your biology had to work, because circulation is the essence of health. You know, and so Rastafari has lots of information in it. So don't just look at it in terms of geopolitics or geopolitical religious views, but it's also deeper. It's intrinsic spirituality, it is ancestral, it is the soul, the spirit, the intuition.
We have a higher natural majority, because when people think Rastafari is poor, no. I believe that Rastafari had the highest information of natural majority based and make a lot of good benefits into a monetary system. But Europe are not going to accept those ideas without monetary system because they're too rich.
Yeah.
Especially like herb.
Yeah.
Rastafari plant the right herb in a natural way, and we tell the most high grade more than the foreign, because the foreign are fertilizer and never get the right formula. So the same thing to deal with other natural resources, that food or any material that can create anything from the earth to make money in a natural way.
Oh, so, I mean, how could you mention Rastafari without mentioning marijuana, or herb, ganja, cannabis sativa, Cali, Cali weed?
Yeah.
It's like...
And all the footballers, the NBA, all the musicians, they come to Jamaica just to get Jamaican herb. It's a reason why. Yeah, all the footballers.
So the
popular footballer you can name it. Man, you the whole of them, the top baller, them come to Jamaica. I not tell you who because a Jamaican man who are Tivoli, we name Ricardo, don't
No, say the name, bro.
yeah, he might play football down up better. That's how the link about. Yeah, the herbal thing.
The truth of life is, Jamaica and marijuana. Now they have medical ganja. Marijuana is being legalized in a lot of societies because now I guess the Europeans are European-minded have found a benefit which seems to outweigh what they thought were the harm. But Rastaman had said in their spirituality, I mean, long time before that, herb is the healing of the nation, to allude to the fact that when you smoke herb, not only, but honestly, your soul is longing to be free. Because when you drink rum, it's like you're tumbling down and falling over, unable to make sense of your reality. But when you smoke herbs, your soul is longing to be free. So the essence of it was that the Rastaman had consecrated the herb as a sacrament and had added it to the sense of expanding the mental outside of the context, because everything was seen as a confinement. So the herb was like the way of breaking your soul out of the egg or the shell so that you could go beyond the confinement, that your mind could wander outside the ghettos and the grottos and the filthy pathways and remote areas that you're isolated in because of how society and poverty, entrenched by the way the system is structured, has set it. Your mind, through the marijuana, the herb, was seeking to find these cracks in the wall, in the prison system, beyond the barriers, beyond those intense high walls, and find its way back into the clear air, into the quiet areas, into the shaded area, into the peaceful areas, into where the people are full of soul, full of life. So marijuana breaks the soul out. Herb, the sacrament, your devotion is not to the herb, is that it intensifies your clarity. Many Rastaman would expound, that's how we got to see HAILE SELASSIE. See the spirit of HAILE SELASSIE, being able to be in tune with the spirit of HAILE SELASSIE, because the herb puts him in the meditative state, because it was able to calm all the extinction and the extingencies and the extenuating circumstances, so we can be still enough, so he could be still enough to just be present and pervade information and find knowledge in presence and value in the information to find, that has been found and that can be added to self. That's the essence of the Rastaman and the mental patterns of what marijuana helps to create in a person. And so as the Western culture then takes up the herb culture now, and then they popularize it and it becomes about THC free or medicanja or whatever else it is, designer herb, and the vaping and this and that and the special designer bongs, it has become this populist culture. But remember, for us, it is meditative, it is clairvoyant. It is not about feeling high and buzzed and tipsy-turvy floating. It's actually about more like levitating. It's more like about transcendental. It's more about like transcendentalism. It is more like a true release beyond heathenism. It's not just for good sex. It's for clear thought, for clear presence.
Your inner self activation.
Yes. So, as we continue on the trail of Rastafari, there is an unsaid parable, and that unsaid parable relates to the fact that the Rastaman is like the only man left from creation, original man. That's a quotation coming through Bob Marley, but really wasn't he the first that said it, who knows. So there is a striving towards the acceptance that Rastafari is indigenous. It is indigenous perception in the modern. The modern is placating with a whole lot of differences and reference points, but Rastafari, believe it or not, fits all references of anciency, yet it's up to the time, right? Someone that's a postmodern.
More add to your points, Rastafari evolved
Yes.
into the truth of Christ.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it was a growing movement, a
Yes.
growing culture.
It's a civilization.
And now it's fully grown when we find the truth of Christ.
Yeah, right.
Jerome is saying Rastafari has evolved into the truth of Christ. It's a growing movement, and when we have grown into the truth of Christ, then we are fully evolved. And here is where the fulfillment comes, when we are back on the path of our divine law, of what our ancient forefathers were procuring before time and geopolitical and chattel slavery and modernist history pushed us in so many different directions that we could not naturally see and be clear in who we are. Rastafari and our journey as we can see, is an everlasting journey to self-awareness, right? Not just to self-awareness, but to self-clarity. So for those who are in the international world seeking, like, we are heading forward to the Rastafari way of life and seeking justice from the Rastafari way of life, you must understand, to come into the Rastafari way of life, first you have to be humble in yourself.
You have to be quite challenged within yourself a little more.
That's very important, because
Because when you're part of Rastafari and you just start to be Rasta, you can't talk. You have to listen to them and then help you to put your inner self, and you become talent like them. And they will help you express yourself when the time comes. So that is my experience. When I become Rasta and a part of the Rasta, I was listening and interpret all the knowledge, and I start looking to myself, examine my action, I start doing my research, and I start becoming my own self. And the other Rasta start looking and say, you're a Rasta, and you're a Rasta, and you just become like one, you just be. So Rasta not want to force you to be, they just help you to be, and let you experience to become. You know?
The becoming is up to you.
You're not forcing you, that encourage you through the doorway, and you go and research for yourself and experience it, and you laugh about it. And when you found yourself, do not fight your parents, do not fight nobody who not in your side.
Quite so.
Accept them, and they will find themselves, they will cross over themselves when they're ready.
Because the fact of the matter is, that's the next thing we need to look at, especially in the modern world, because Jamaican Rastafari has already gone through a lot of chastisement in family. So it's actually been encultured now to be a certain way of thinking when your parents are acting a certain way. You just realize, oh, mommy that, you know, daddy that, you know, daddy go through the church system, so, you know, daddy knows certain things, mommy knows certain things. So we have accepted, but I know for a lot of people who are coming to Rastafari perception, modern young men and young women in the Western worlds, I know that there is not a structure that you have that is teaching you how to understand the differences between your parents' expression of their reality and yours. Because remember, you know, this is helping you to find yourself, because lots of things about Rastafari are intrinsic to a Jamaican way of life. Now there's a culture that's been popularized by the music, but remember, it is still closely linked to Jamaican way of life, how we have viewed reality and the kinds of individuals we are.
And the kind of morality how you live.
Yes, and so yes, and the kind of moral principles.
Your morality, yes. Look at how you act and how you live. And they're not going to burn you, they will help you to recognize the bad things you do, to convert the positive things. And when you find it, it's all about the culture, the life that you're living.
Okay, so if you understand that, then you can then be able to be more respectful to your parents, understanding of those who do not necessarily share that way of life. Because even though you might say to them, mommy and daddy, this is so and so and so, but then you have to respect that they're the ones that have been providing for you, caring for you, and taking care of you. So true love within Rastafari would teach you to respect your parents, those who care for you, and those around who genuinely are not harming you, are genuinely not trying to dishonor you. So then you got to realize these things as you come into your awareness. You cannot then be angry when people say, well, I'm not into this Rastafari thing, because they would have known you as something else, and then all of a sudden they say you have become something else, not recognizing that you're actually awakening your true self. So be patient with them, be gentle with them, be very gentle, because that will create ripples. Because Bob, we know it. Later on in life, when you reach 15 years down the line as a Rastafari, the disrepair it caused with your mother and your father, you're going to feel so remorseful about it, so hurt by it. Sometimes they're not here for you to tell them you're sorry, so it's not worth ripping your soul apart or putting a bar around your soul right now. And then later on you're going to feel angry when your parents aren't here for you to say you're sorry. Because then you would become a parent yourself if you're not yet a parent, or become a more aware parent, or your heart would melt past your bad experiences and how you thought that people were fighting you when you became a Rasta. So I know there's a spirit that say, talk about the man and we are struggling and the thing, and the man say, a revolution. Yes. There's a part of Rastafari which is for the hot-headed minds. Hot-headed because they're explosive, hot-headed because they've got strong viewpoints and they want to be expressed. They do not feel that in any context they are being expressed by postmodernism or any kind of imagery of a subdued and a very, very, very integrated image of Rastafari. They are wild, wissy mama warriors, deep within the inculcation of black culture. Their soul is burning with the fire of the Christ, and they will not be sidelined, sidetracked, or interpreted, or opinionated about, and they will speak for themselves. So let us not be confused.
That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Why the European and Rome live in a bagwagon culture based on their morality and based on how them live. Rastafari told about the natural live, and no people can follow that natural taste, natural love, natural deal with people, natural make food, natural deal with cheering, you know, natural, total.
But
that's natural.
But that natural fire.
That's godly. That it become godly. It become godly.
But that natural fire, as you're saying, that godly self,
so what
is the same
live in
fire.
a dirty lifestyle, and everybody follow up, everybody forget about the Rastafari and forget about the naturality. And you know that the thing what the European Rome do is death. You're dead. Unnatural death, you're dead. Lie, killing, rape, blood sacrifice, whatever. Selfish money, no change, fear. That is, you know yourself, come on.
So I'm saying, those Rastafari, right, that knows this fire. That has this fire, right? That has this intense fire. That is there. It's more than just for, let's say, to sound like Bob Marley or Peter Tosh, or to sound like some popular, modern reggae icon. It's not to sound like any of them. It's that the soul in those people, just like Bob is saying, is crying out because after thousands of years, hundreds of years, upon hundreds of years of abuse of our ancestry, because they are awake to the spirit of presence, because they have not cut themselves off from their ancestry. They have not cut themselves off from their way of life. So remember that it is not just a culture to satisfy, as Brother Bob said, Europeans' opinion or the decadence of European life. It is actually for the awakening and the preservation of the eternal soul. That even though there have been some great events upon the plane that have distorted our reality, Rastafari is saying, through nature, our realities will be brought to amend, to wholeness, to healing, to completion. So as we travel along the road of Rastafari, as we trod Rastafari, let us be mindful that its deep essence and core, hallelujah, is truth. And that truth be expressed, be espoused, that each one really teach one at an iron sharp iron, because the truth of life is what the Rastaman is saying. Return to the truth of life. And it doesn't matter if you're on the white side of reality, the brown side of reality, the mixed side of reality, or the deepest, blackest, darkest side of reality.
Or blue side of reality.
Just accept the reality, the truth of what is. Be honest with what has been your heritage, and to come to the true self, to have a true destiny, clear and clean of karmic debt, is to be present, is to unwind the ancient misdeeds, is to come to acceptance, is to create natural patterns. If you find yourself being blessed with material reality and wealth, just like Christ said before, sell it and come to the process. I won't tell you in such a strong term because I'm not Christ. What I will say is that Rastafari culture has much use for the material wealth if it is subdued to the sasa, to the spiritual. If it is subdued to the spiritual well-being, Rastafari has great use for it. There are schools, there are crafts, there are things that are necessary. There are more music to come, there are more carvings to come, there are more fashion to come, there are more philosophies to come, there are more the feminine side of it to come, there are more the masculine side, there's the matriarchal, there's the patriarchal, there's the filial with the children, there's more piety, there's more sobriety, there's more to forward from Rastafari life, from Rastafari living. So if you're forward into Rastafari, bring the jewels of the heart, the jewels of the soul, and if you have the material jewels, like Christ said, like I am saying, subdue them to the will of the spiritual works in Rastafari, and your soul will find peace. You'll find your niche, not in the market, but in the reality of Rastafari. You'll resonate the same as Bob said. When you humble, listen, learn, and grow, when you become, others will say to you, whether you have the locks or not, they say, hey, you're Rastafari.
And then you wait till yourself have luck in the future before you lock your hair. When you see yourself, you're going to lock your hair. But not to come in on you.
Perceptivity.
Yeah.
Premonition. Seeing the future, yet in the present. So, in my closing preamble comments, I would just want to say, if you find yourself literally out there in the international world, treading this journey towards Rastafari culture, way of life, due respect to Jamaica, to what we have brought forward to the world, due respect to the true heritage of how the Europeans have pillaged and plundered a lot of our natural resources and have created a kind of a subdued and a highly unfunctional, sometimes somewhat dysfunctional mind. And it's a blessing to know that within our own selves, within our own thinking, we could redefine the Christos, we could redefine Yeshua, we could redefine the experience of Yeshua to our experience, and that we could see it in our own mind, in our own language, and our own mental space. It is indeed good to see that the others of the judgment kind, of the world of externals, are seeing it. But before you get so carried away to think it is your reality, just reminding you, hallelujah, that it is our reality, and you're sharing it with us. So for all the judgmental ones out there, throwing arrows at us, throwing stones and sticks from all over, I would say, be humbly subdued. In your own ignorance, you'll find no bliss. Truth is, you should not be so jealous. God knows what we've been through. Our ancestors know what we've been through. In this world led by ideologies, it's good that we have an ideology that socially, politically, and economically and spiritually suffices our soul to live in harmony and keep our ancient history, heritage, and self-awareness. Blessed be Yahweh, Hashua, Divine Elohim, Rastafari, Karamari, Karamari, Xiabiri, Masagan. Blessings be Rastafari. Tread on the journey. Be steadfast in the search, you know. Respect the ancient of days, the ancient of ways. Respect Ethiopian culture, the African culture. Respect what we as black Tainos, ancient tribes, Moors, and all manner of ancient nations have done in the West through the organization of Rastafari, gathering of the nations, gathering of the people. For the gathering of the people shall be unto Yahuda. Yehuda, Judah, Yudah, Yahuda. Blessings, Bob. Do you want to left them with? So them can forward on.
Well, I don't really have a lot of words to say. I'm not like a talkative person. I'm more like a silent person. That's why I'm hardly express myself, but I only express myself in a small words, make it become a big heart, you know? Because I'm more seeing things, more talk when I was younger. I'm a see further things. And I see action before the physical play out. That's why people say action speak louder than words. That is why I don't really have to talk, because I read a lot of energy. And that's why I start learn how to read stars, nations, and connect with the right people, the Rastafari people, to make you become your own Rastafari. And all you have to do, you just have to just listen and accept everybody, forgive everybody. Forgive the people who bother you in the past, because you're going to meet them in the future and you have to correct them in a positive way to move on to the future too. And so you have to just forgive your first family when you're born, you know. So you forgive them, it doesn't matter what they are, right or wrong. Just forgive them all so that you can able to focus more into yourself in a peaceful being. And you can able to express yourself better with people who want to listen to you more. And let's be good, let's make good follow you. Make Jah lead, then I follow. Jah lead, then you follow.
Aye. So that's where we're going to leave it. Yah leads, and we follow. Until next time, we'll continue Reasonings at the Tree of Life. I've been Jerome, I'm right here, Jerome Sage Butler. Brother Lawrence Anderson, we call him Bob the Mystic. Brother Ramon Singh, right here, up at the Dub Club, you know, Jackson, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Until next we meet again, keeps on the path. Rastafari, Trodding Rastafari.